And you can learn about money from anybody, especially in small towns. We're going to talk about lessons from the Luling Watermelon Thump.
The Real Investment Show.
And welcome back. So I think it's 109 to 113 degrees in the shade. Even Brent, who's half frogman, has to agree that it's very uncomfortable and stuffy around here. So years ago, I mean, it's funny. I know so many people from Texas. Danny, you're the exception because you know about a lot of different parts of Texas and Texas history. But I talk to people that are born here and know very little about Texas history, the Alamo, small towns. They don't travel outside their small area. Like for Texas being this state of explorers, we've become a state of people that don't want to leave their little area. It's I'm sort of amazed. I mean, Brent does too. Brent's always on road trips, but there are some incredible places. And I came across Luling back in 2008, 7 or 8, by accident, and was driving through and saw that they have a watermelon thump. And for the most part, I've been going every year. And it fascinated me. So this watermelon thump, Danny, started in 1954. And I don't know. There's something about small towns in Texas to me. Like, I always say this. People always give me slack, but I don't consider Houston part of Texas. Brent's going to get me later.
What?
It's just not. Go ahead and drive and go to the small towns. That's Texas. That's the spirit of Texas to me. Here, I don't know. But I always, the current residents there, I've always been fascinated by it. The town had 5,500 people. Now I think it's closer to 7,000. Listen, Luling's gotten expensive. I mean, and I will tell you, there's this acrid odor that comes from the oil pumps. There's the metal grind of the railroad. That railroad comes through all the time in Luling, no matter what, right? This ear-piercing whistle, that fragrance of barbecue, and I know I am in Texas. And I was pretty much baked alive at the last thump. I was telling Brent, I went up to a watermelon stand and I had my ear on a watermelon, and a guy comes up to me and going, why is your ear on a watermelon? Is that a new way to pick them? I'm like, no, I'm just listening to see if it's boiling. It was, and I've gone years where it's hot. This year was a whole other level of hot. But I am also the firm believer that you can learn from anyone. You can learn from anybody you talk to, anybody you see in any town. You got to be an observer. That's how you got to do it, right? So I'm going to quiz Danny, Brent, about some of this because I want to see if he understands what this means. So I've compiled notes over the years, and I got a new one for this year from the residents of Luling as I asked them questions. And some of them look at me like, Yankee, why are you asking me a question? Listen, I've been here since 1998. Can I be adopted? I got here as soon as I could. By the fact, $100 billion profound shift has reshaped the southern U.S. as people flee to states like Texas, right? We're going to talk a little about that later. Here's one of the lessons I learned. Danny, you're going to have to tell me. I don't eat the whole chicken all at once, just a piece at a time.
What are you asking me? That's fairly normal.
Is it fried or barbecued?
I mean, I've never seen anybody eat a whole chicken at once. I mean, yes, it may be in one sitting.
I have done it in one sitting.
Not in one bite. I mean,
no, piece at a time. What I'm saying is this growing wealth, the things that people do is a step at a time, right? With us, it's the financial awareness of your cash flow. It's spending less than your household income. It's managing debt and savings, right? It's about investing. I don't go all in and come all out, right? So, when people say stuff to me in Texas and they have a way of doing it, I don't have any idea what it means. And I'm sort of afraid to ask what it means, especially if I'm standing on their property, because I may not be there long. But I have to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, I don't eat the whole chicken all at once, a piece at a time. That could be dollar cost averaging. I mean, how do I relate that to money? Right? But taking baby steps, investing, paying yourself first. I don't know. I ask people about, listen, it's about money. Can you give me a lesson? And this is what I get.
I'm so glad you went that direction because I didn't know where you were going with this chicken thing. I mean, you talk about the watermelons, Texas. I was like, where's he going with this?
I'm all
this
over.
This shows you how scripted we are.
We're so scripted, we're unscripted.
I hope you guys are on your toes as well.
Yeah, listen. I ask about money lessons. This is what I get. Don't eat the whole chicken at once. Just a piece at a time. And then you sit there and you scratch your head, and then you got to figure it out. Because what a Texan wants you to do is, you're a smart boy, figure it out. And then I figured it out. And everything takes place over time.
And then you have your Friday food segment.
That would be great.
Which is
who's eating chicken in Luling, by the way?
Everybody.
You're eating barbecue.
Barbecue chicken.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they serve barbecue chicken at
I bet you can find it.
City Market, though.
I bet you can find it.
Oh, I'm sure you can find it. Probably in somebody's backyard. Now, this one you're going to understand, Danny. Don't owe nothing to nobody. I can see Danny getting a shirt that says that.
Man, hey, listen, I love that one. But I also love being able to use leverage properly if done right. I mean, that's the problem I think that we have, that so many people want to be debt-free, and I'm all for that. But you can use it strategically, Danny, as well.
The senior old folk in Texas, they don't like the debt.
Hey, I'm with you. I don't like debt either, like not one bit.
And the guy who told me this had a mouthful of ribs and a face devoid of several teeth. I wasn't going to argue with him. Right? And you got to remember, the meat falls right off the bone at City Market. You don't need teeth. You got it. You need cash, though, because they don't take credit. How many people have you eaten at City Market?
It's been years. Years.
You got to go back. What are you doing?
You've never taken your children there?
Nope.
It's an experience. It is an experience.
Listen, I don't like to go anywhere I have to stand in line for any extended period of time to eat food.
I get that.
But just don't do it. I don't do it.
I'm going to go with Richard on this.
It's worth it.
It's worth standing in line
We have 2 or 3 barbecue places very, very close to the house that are like written up in GQ magazine. I mean, they're fantastic.
Okay.
But
I'm done with the show today, everybody. Danny's on his own. See you later.
Who has time to go stand in line for 3 hours? Texas Monthly. I'm talking about, listen, GQ actually has a pretty good write-up on barbecue joints.
My head just exploded on air. Did anybody hear it?
Go Google it. Look at Texas barbecue joints. You're going to find Texas Monthly, GQ, a bunch of other places. But what I'm getting at is, like, I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. If I'm going to eat, I'm going to eat. And yes, I like good food. I love good barbecue. But I will go later and pick something up after the line has subsided, and just not going to do it.
Now I'm going to tell you.
It's principle.
If you just go on a Saturday outside of the Thump, you won't be on the line very long. It moves very, very quickly.
Yes.
Doesn't it?
They better have Chick-fil-A business model on. I'm not dealing with it.
Get there about 11 o'clock before the regular crowd hits for lunch, and you'll be fine.
See, the places around here, you got to get here like 9 o'clock if you want 11 o'clock to eat. I'm not doing it.
I did go to Truth Barbecue. I did go to Truth Barbecue outside of Brenham.
In Brenham, yeah, that's good.
In Brenham. Not the one here in town, because I don't count that one. The one in Brenham. Very cool.
Yeah, right off 105.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. But I'm never going to forget the GQ recommendation. That's...
Oh, shut it. You know where I'm going.
Rich Rosso's
isn't
about
that
to
where
get...
you get your fashion ideas?
Not anymore. I used to. But based on the politics in that magazine, I'm not going there because I should be wearing a dress, Danny. All right. Based on GQ, the best dressed man wears a dress. All right. Now, the heat won't kill you until it does. And I'm like, okay. As I understand, in Texas, you respect the heat, especially if it's 113 degrees. But I thought about the Albert Einstein quote, Danny. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. So if that current relationship you have with money is subpar, you're overextending it on credit, as opposed to what Danny said, where you're using credit in a smart manner. You're not saving for retirement. I sent Lance an article this morning that I think almost broke him. It's about how Gen Z just doesn't care about anything but sitting around and just letting things happen and let the cards fall where they may. In late stage capitalism, where we're not saving and we're not doing a darn thing. That is the definition of insanity. If you're not taking care of your body, physically, mentally, you're failing to continue to learn, you are going to burn to a crisp. That's the money lesson I got from the heat won't kill you until it does. What do you think, Danny?
I agree.
Me too.
I don't have a whole lot to add on that one.
He's still mad at me about that.
I'm not mad.
I'm just kidding. Hay is gold. That's another one I got. Hay is gold. And I'm like, okay. We have record heat. Hay becomes a valuable commodity in Texas, right?
Extremely valuable. I mean, you see people with their, they're decreasing their herds because you can't afford the hay, especially in a drought. I mean, there's been big problems previously where, being a farmer or a rancher is extremely expensive. And it's not, everybody thinks that, you're making a ton of money. That's not always the case.
GQ says you can get your hay at Whole Foods. Just so you know. So, well, doesn't it think about it? All of life comes down to supply and demand, right? So with the way the labor force participation rate is, you are in great demand if you're keeping up your skills, which means I'm going to make more money if I can keep my careers and build my human capital. We return. We're going to continue this. I might not be here with that look in Danny's eye, but one of us will be returning after this.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
Welcome back. So it's all good. Danny said he'll meet me outside after the show. Meet me in the schoolyard. All right, we're going to continue our money lessons from Luling. I'll take small quality over a big stack of nothing. How do you like that one, Danny? I know everything's bigger in Texas, but I think there's an appreciation of quality and what's built well that I haven't seen in a lot of other states.
Well, I think you're just not seeing that anywhere, even here. I mean, just everybody wants to get the cheapest product as quick as they can, or the product, and then fortunately it ends up being, if it's cheap, sometimes you get what you pay for. And so I'm with you on that.
I always try to tell somebody, like, you don't want maybe, and I got a little bit of this from the millionaire next door. I don't absolutely want the cheapest thing. I may not even want the most expensive, but I want it well crafted and somewhere in the middle, and I should do okay.
Well, I think that's where doing your homework comes in. Where you can find, I was talking to somebody yesterday about their auto insurance. I said, man, it's gone through the roof.
Yep.
And I said, well, let's talk about it. And I've had a lot of emails about that as of recent. I said, well,
Homeowners, auto, right?
yeah, everything just has gotten so much more expensive. So, we're talking about shopping around and what they were looking for and trying to look at. And I said, well, the cheapest is not always the best. We need to look at, obviously we want something that's attractively priced, but if we're buying insurance, we also want somebody that does good with claims. So it's not very good if you're going to fight for years trying to get money out of them if you actually need it. And hopefully you never need it. But
there is a value to customer service,
correct,
promptness, as opposed to just looking at price.
Or getting what you pay for in
right.
general, right? I mean, that's why we have it.
And you're right. We always want the best deal. But again, having the best deal, there's a great book. I read it years ago called Cheap. And it talks about the evolution of the U.S. consumer, how we eventually wanted more and more deals, right? And these big places like, where I was from up north, EJ Corvettes, but you also have bargain stores. But then it became, we got to go to China for cheaper stuff. And now we're in this issue where we don't want to be so dependent on China. But it all stems, even though people say it's corporate greed, it stems from us wanting cheaper and cheaper stuff as well. And then capitalism is going to find a way to capitalize on it. So the evolution of the U.S. consumer from wanting higher quality to junk crap is fascinating in this book called Cheap. I'm sure you could pick up the paperback for cheap. It's been around a while. But it was just fascinating, Danny, to show how we became more addicted to these kinds of bargains that we wanted. But then, I think when we say bargain, we're trying to find good stuff at a good price. But eventually it just became cheap stuff at a cheap price. Man, I remember, I know I'm aging myself. But did you have box fans? Brent, did you have a box fan?
We still have box
I
fans.
still have one in the garage.
Okay, but I'm talking about box fans, not the ones now you go and you buy them from Walmart.
Ones that were in the window?
Well, but they're plastic.
Yeah.
They're all junk plastic.
Now they are.
But when I was a kid, they were metal.
They were metal.
Weren't they
Yes.
metal?
I still
You
have a
can
metal
still get
one.
metal
you have
ones.
You can still get the metal ones? Where do you get
You
those?
pay a little bit more for them. But yeah.
I just don't see them when I go to like a Walmart or something. I don't see the.
They're circular now. They're not boxed. That
well,
may be your
there's
problem.
a circle
You're
in the
looking-
box, but the fans themselves, the outer ring, the outer part, the grid, everything was metal.
Yeah. I've got one so old the feet have fallen off of it.
Really?
But I still use it.
You still love her though. You're kidding.
Just had to go there.
I just had to do that. I know. And now Brent's going to want to meet me outside after school.
No.
Everybody's ganging up on me. This is just like high school. Back at Lincoln High School in Brooklyn. The past has a place, but don't forget the present. And I was like, okay, past has a place. Don't forget the present. All right. So when I think about this, I think about when people buy stocks and then they have a bad experience with that company as far as the stock doesn't perform. When they sell it, they never go back to looking at it again. Like Microsoft is terrible, Apple was terrible, all these companies that were terrible, but realize companies are living and breathing. They change. But I notice when people sell something at a loss, Danny, they never, it's like, close the door. I'm never looking at that company again. And maybe it's an entirely different investment. I think you have to have an open mind for a company that hasn't performed well. Like, to me, what comes to my mind is Intel. No matter what, Intel cannot get out of its own way. But I always watch it because maybe there'll be a change in management. Maybe they will turn things around. I think Cisco's on that path.
Yeah.
So you can't, even though you may have a bad experience with an investment, it could have been your timing. It could have been management. It doesn't mean you can't look at it with fresh eyes, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's a common problem with most people is that they feel like, hey, this has been bad. I'm never going back to this again. I've lost money. And things change. Like you just mentioned, management changed. I think that's a big one that we see, they can kind of right the ship and things actually do get better. That's a more attractive investment. So I always want to go back to like, why did you invest in it in the first place? There must have been some type of conviction. You must have liked it for one reason or another. And I think that goes with anything. I mean, I think we should learn from the past, understand what our mistakes were, document them, because I think in this age of information, it comes to us so quickly. It's so easy to forget, what were the reasons initially? Why did we buy a company? What were the fundamentals? Jot these things down. What was your reasoning? And the problem, I think, too, is that we get so emotional about these things instead of just going by the data and going by what and you've got to look at sentiment too. But I think our own sentiment gets in the way sometimes.
I think so. Now, I understand there are some companies that you may not want to own because there's a conflict that you have with them. Like there are stores I'm never going into.
Oh, there are stores I want.
And I don't care.
My list. It's
I
long.
personally don't care if the stock goes up a bajillion %. I'm not owning it.
I'm not selling my soul to the devil.
Yeah. He's feisty today. I like him. GQ.
He's on
selling the soul
point.
to the devil.
Yeah.
He's on point.
Listen, man, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, I listen, and I will respect that. If there's a company that you feel it's not because you had a bad experience because you lost money in it, but is that there's something that conflicts with your, who you are and what you believe in. Listen, As long as you understand the consequences of it, I'm more power to you. I'm totally fine with that. That's a rule, and a rule's a rule, and I'm okay with it. What do you think, Brent? You okay with that?
I completely agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Danny. There's stores I will never darken the doorway of again.
And I'm okay with it. And they don't care.
No, they
They'll
don't
be
care.
fine without us.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. It's not like I'm making a big impact. But in my own, to Danny's point, I've got my own morals. I got my own situation I've got to deal with, and I don't feel right about it, so I'm not going to do it.
My list will be out next week for a small fee of
Danny's list.
you too.
So we have Danny's preferred list of retailers.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, just don't go to...
Pretty short.
You debut that on Wednesday?
I'm not going with his
Yeah.
magazine subscriptions because GQ, not doing that. All
Look,
right.
man, I'm just trying to relate to you. That's why I brought it up.
I know you do.
I mean, I figured, I know you've been a lifetime subscriber.
He's going to scratch.
Oh, man.
You know what I did subscribe to? Backwoods magazine.
Oh, really?
Is that what is that? The cigars, cigarettes? What do
No,
they make?
it's Backwoods. It's all about like you're
manly
going to go
men
live in a
stuff.
hole.
Yeah.
It's good for a lot of wealthy on people too. You can fool yourself, but the pigs will still laugh at you. So, you know what I thought about here? Emotion. The greatest enemy, Danny, you should talk about is of investment and financial success. We are constantly plagued by overconfidence. We sell high, we sell low, we buy high, we hold on to losers too long, we sell winners prematurely, we create trends in our head that don't exist. You can fool yourself, but the pigs are going to still laugh at you. This one is my absolute favorite because I just stood there with my mouth open, and I'm sure about 30 flies went in there because I had no idea what that meant.
I'm curious as to the context in which this statement was uttered to you.
You don't want to know on the radio. All I'm saying is someone was a little tipsy and came up with that. And I'm
So
like,
did you just go around asking
I
random
did.
people?
I did.
Sitting at tables,
it was
excuse me,
almost,
sir.
and I almost got the same tone I got with the GQ from you. They were ready to beat me up. But
Well, I'm just curious.
No,
I wasn't ready to beat you up.
I'm just kidding. Where's his sense
I mean,
of
if that's
going to
be the one that
Can I get his
does it.
sense of humor back? Where's my Danny?
Man.
Danny, where are you?
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
here.
Richard was traumatized in school.
I was traumatized.
Or in
in
Luling,
school.
one of the two.
I think Luling was more cathartic for him.
Probably so.
I was the bully's greatest target in school. Yeah.
Well, as
It's
we
just
say here in
it is what it
Texas,
is, man.
Bless your little heart.
That's the one I didn't get. Bless your heart. Why didn't I get that? I could have turned that into a money lesson.
I'm just curious, did you go around and just ask people at random picnic
I
tables?
did. I
or
said,
were you
what's
waiting?
the best advice you can tell someone in your Texas way? In other words, you learned it in Texas. What's your best advice? And these are what I got. And some of them amazed me.
Just write a book on it.
I could write a book on these. If I keep doing this over the few years, I bet I can come up with a really, really good book. All right.